David Chatham here with Angel Oak Creative. Welcome to the Nonprofit State of Mind podcast. This is our first, we're doing this podcast, and we're excited about that. We're really, this year, we're really leaning into the idea of building a stronger state of nonprofits in North Carolina. So we're talking to nonprofit leaders across the state, getting their experience, their advice, their wins, their losses, their fails, and sharing all of those things with the audience, and hopefully just strengthening our state of nonprofits here. We have two great guests today. One of the things that Angel Oak did this year to try to strengthen the state of nonprofits in North Carolina is to invest in Leadership Triangle. So we partially funded 2 scholarships at Leadership Triangle this year to go to nonprofit leaders to support them in their effort to gain some skills around leadership. And our 2 recipients this year are Penny Carroll and Michelle Benham. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great being here.
Well, we've got 2 really talented folks here. Penny is a master's of social work and a licensed social worker, as well as a professor at NC Central University in Durham, one of the state's HBCUs. That's correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Go Eagles.
Yeah, that's right. And then Michelle is Senior Director of Development and Communications at Forward City. So great to have both of you. Penny, I want to make sure you're a professor at NC Central in the College of Social Sciences. So yes. Thank you both for being here. Would love to just have you introduce yourself real quick, a little bit about your journey to getting here, and just kind of what your relationship to nonprofits are, and just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Penny, you want to start?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm new to the area. I am originally from Ohio. My husband and I relocated here in 2018. I took on a position at North Carolina Central University. Prior, I was the Ohio State University professor. And I've been in the field. Yeah, I know, you got to get that "the" in there. I said the Ohio State University, Buckeye land for I was there 8 years. But as relocating to the beautiful state of North Carolina, still my role as a social worker. I was in the field of social work 20 years, and now I'm training and equipping students in the field of social work. And really, we're learning a lot about nonprofits and the value of nonprofits. So that's my story, and I'll just kind of keep to that. Okay.
Michelle, well, Penny, tell us real quick, just a little bit about your work at NC Central and what that looks like.
Okay, sure. I teach undergraduate and graduate students, masters specifically in social work, macro and micro practice subjects. And so the connection specifically from a macro perspective is really assigning assignments students have that actually have to go out in the community. They actually have to select a nonprofit agency that's been around for about 20 years within North Carolina as part of their assignment. And then they have to research the history of that agency. They have to research the history of the community that agency serves. And they have to do community assessments, windshield surveys. They do mapping, just really they dig deep into understanding the value of the nonprofit. And they also speak to the lay leaders of that community. And just kind of circle back, they create a 3-minute video of their findings of the research of social problems and how does that nonprofit agency has been an impact in that community. So that's my exciting.
I'd love to see some of those videos. Yeah, if you're able to share that, we'd love to see some of those. I bet you that'd be really interesting.
Absolutely, I would love to, and I do have their permission. I got their permission to do that. So yes, I would love to. So that's pretty much what I do. That's
great. No, I had no idea that you all did that kind of work. So that's exciting to hear that your students are getting that engaged. So that's great.
Yes.
Well, Michelle, tell us a little bit about your journey, and then a little bit about Forward Cities.
Sure. So I am originally from Georgia. I grew up in Georgia and went to the University of Georgia, where I studied ecology. So I have a background in wildlife conservation and ecology, and I decided that I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, like a conservation documentary
Wow.
filmmaker. So I went into filmmaking, got my master's in film, moved to DC, and was really loving it. And then my husband and I in 2014 moved to Durham when we had our second child, because we love the area and wanted to be closer to family. And we've been here since then. And when we moved here, I decided to start my own business, like a communications consulting business. And I was very unprepared for how many challenges that would present, being a new mom and being new to the area and just feeling incredibly like isolated and disconnected. And I got connected to some people at SCORE, and that was incredibly helpful, but I wasn't as connected into the larger ecosystem of support. So I worked for a while at Full Frame Documentary Film Festival, was the marketing director there. So kind of segued my interest and background in filmmaking and communications into more development and communications work. And I've had the opportunity at Forward Cities to really hone that kind of piece of what I'm so interested in. And Forward Cities is a national nonprofit. We're based in Durham, but we've worked in over 40 communities to build and sustain more equitable entrepreneurial ecosystems. So imagining back to when, I started and failed my own business, thinking about how people can be more connected to support and resources and capital and networks that are there and exist through many amazing organizations, and just thinking about it at a systems level and ensuring that these are equitably distributed and accessible throughout the community.
That's great. Well, thank you both for all you do for our nonprofit community and for helping to build North Carolina and even our country stronger as a nonprofit state of minds as we talk about that. So talk a little bit about your interest in Leadership Triangle, what brought you to that place of wanting to develop your leadership skills around that. Michelle, you want to start with this question?
Sure. And I just want to take the opportunity now to say how grateful I am to Angel Oak Creative, because we've only had a few sessions together, but it has already been absolutely life-changing. This cohort of professionals are absolutely just so warm and inviting, and it's been such a great experience already, and we're not even halfway through.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, our pleasure.
I think that it's important, as someone who works in a nonprofit and is committed to the community in which I live, and by community I mean Durham, but also really the state of North Carolina, to just always seek ways to improve and become more connected and more knowledgeable about what other people are doing. And one thing that has been really wonderful about Leadership Triangle is we're getting a really macro view of the deepest kind of challenges and complex issues that our region is dealing with, and figuring out together how we might kind of address or tackle some of those. And I've been struck by so many of the conversations that we've had, whether we're talking about transportation or, any kind of other like large societal issue. I feel like the conversation, it's no surprise, always comes back to this idea of equity and people who have been left out of these systems for so long. And so as a group, just trying to think about how we might continue to move that forward and challenge these systems so that they can be more inclusive and equitable.
No, that's great. That's great. Penny, what about you? Your interest in Leadership Triangle?
Yeah, again, mention what Michelle said. I am just so grateful for Angel Oak and just being able to be part of this initiative, this program. I'm also a doctoral student. I'm pursuing a PhD in organizational leadership with a focus on education administration. So, I'm getting all the learning, I'm getting all the theory, but where is the application? And with me being very new to the state, it was so important for me. I'm arriving in 2018, 19, you get kind of adjusted, and then the pandemic hits. And then I feel like I've been in somewhat of a silo and teaching online, and I'm trying to encourage students to be engaging in community, and we can't do that yet. And so I said, you know what, I need to jump out there and be more engaging myself so that I can kind of practice what I'm preaching, being a very new to the state. But as Michelle mentioned, it has just been totally just amazing. I also have a public health background, so hearing these statistics and about the health disparities and the inequities and inequalities and all of the things that's going on in North Carolina, the state of education just blew my mind. I had no idea of a state that has such promise with technology can be so low in the education level. And so I'm just, I think Michelle, we're just scratching the surface. We've not even gotten to the part where we're not even halfway there. I get really excited about being part of this program and learning from others. I'm very team oriented and I love to learn. And interesting, I did a research on nonprofits, and I did not realize this probably since 100 years ago in graduate school, but it started with the Peabody Education Fund. And the purpose was to integrate poor white and formerly enslaved people of the South. So nonprofits has always been about integration. They've always been about fairness and the wellness of communities locally, state, and globally. So I'm in such good company. And so, yeah, I thought so. It's just wonderful. So
well, you're
just really, yeah.
You're taking us to school. You're taking us to school this morning. So.
Yeah, that's the teacher in me.
That's right. No, that's great. No, I appreciate that that education. That's great.
Yeah.
What I know you're only a few sessions in, but is there anything that struck you that you feel like is really something that could be applied from what you've learned at Leadership Triangle? Is there some experience or some information that you've gained over these first few sessions that you're like, wow, kind of an aha moment or something that could really be put to use already for you? And Penny, we'll start with you.
Oh, it's so much. I think if there's anything that has stood out, I think I just mentioned before, is the state of where education is. We're 48 out of 50 as it relates to where students are, and I'm speaking about K through 12.
Yeah.
That level of education, we're 48th. But and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, where are we in technology? The number in technology, we're 48th in education. Then in technology, we're like at the top, top tier.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you're asking me, again, being an educator, just continues to apply the learning to students to the best of my ability from when they come from K through 12, then they're in higher education, to just continue to apply to the best of my ability so they can be prepared beyond the college level.
No, that's great. Michelle, what about you? Any takeaways so far that you feel like are really applicable to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, echoing what Penny said, the last session that we had together was a lot of information, but it was just absolutely stunning to see how these challenges and issues just stack upon each other, and how if we're not intentional and creative, we're not going to solve these. We have to be at least aware and facing these problems head on to have a hope of, connecting some of these dots. But I think the first session that we had together, we spent the afternoon with some folks from Activate Good, and that was really wonderful. Yeah, that was really great because it was something super specific and actionable that I have continued to kind of think about since then, and how how creatively they approach this, and how they seem to just really work with anyone or any organization that has an interest in volunteering their time, capacity, resources to the greater good. That was really inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a little trite, but we are better together, right? When we
Yes.
all kind of work towards the same goal and work towards the same end rather than competing, efforts, then, we're definitely going to come out stronger and better as a region in the triangle, as a state, and as a country too. Not to get too bold about it, but I do think that it's that it does start, just like they talk about all politics are local. To me, I think all nonprofits are local, right? I mean, that the ones that are making the impact down on their block, right, are the ones that are starting that movement to go into the city and then go into the region and then into the state. And like Forward Cities now, you're how many cities did you say? 40 something cities, is that right? Yeah. I mean, so that to me is just a great example of the power that nonprofits have, but also the challenges that they face too with getting those resources and getting the people who are willing and able to do the work. I think is certainly a challenge. And I guess, Penny, that's where you're coming into play. I know you've mentioned to me that many of your students go into the nonprofit space, many of those studying social work and related fields. What kind of questions or what kind of challenges do you see them facing that are keeping us from being a stronger state of nonprofits,
Well, I think one of the challenges, and I have to speak from, in a classroom, my curriculum is very social work focused, macro focused. They're not getting the business aspect of understanding of what nonprofits. They're not getting that teaching. I'm not a business teacher. At what point can there be a combination of their learning from a business aspect? They're not getting the entrepreneurial skill sets in the classroom. So although we're trying our best to prepare them, and they can do internships, which brings theory to practice, their internships is a year, sometimes a year or 6 months. And so I just see just a continuation of learning and understanding. I was writing some things down, the stability of understanding the budgets and income and all of those things that go beyond the walls of doing human service needs. And so that's what I think that could be even more so that students could have, social work students could have more learning and understanding of going out into the nonprofit arena.
So having the bigger picture of what's going on in the community, what's going on with nonprofits and how it all works together, I think that's important because I think we are part of a system, right? So understanding how each of those cogs and gears work is an important part of that. So Michelle, what about you with Forward Cities? You all work not just in North Carolina, but across the country. I'm assuming there's some kind of common challenges. You mentioned inequity earlier, which I know is a significant one. Are there others that kind of are common among different communities that face these challenges?
Yeah, so we over the last several years have seen that. I mean, obviously every community is so different, but we have started to see some patterns, and I think as we are theoretically coming out of the pandemic, depending on where you
how many times have we said that,
right? We're trying to be of service to communities and helping them kind of understand in the larger context, like how these patterns are playing out. But I think, Penny, really, you hit the nail on the head there. Like, I think that the aspect of nonprofits that can be especially challenging is the sustainability of the nonprofit itself. And I think that as we continue to kind of address some of society's biggest challenges, we also, as nonprofit organizations, need the space and support to be able to think about what's next. I think that through general operating funds, unrestricted funding, there's an opportunity to support nonprofits as organizations, not just as the projects and programs that they are delivering. And I think that's going to be a critical trend in the next, 5 to 10 years that will make a huge difference, because we are as nonprofit leaders, just constantly thinking about these issues, and we know them better than anybody. And so our expertise is best deployed when we have that time and ability to look, at the horizon a little bit more than we're currently able to do, because our funding is so often restricted.
Mm. Yeah, and both of you, thank you for that. And both of you make me think too, we put a lot of confidence, a lot of trust, a lot of weight into the views and insights of people who work in for-profit, right? I mean, the Warren Buffett's the Oracle of Omaha, right? I mean, those sorts of things. So, I think we underestimate the power and the the influence that nonprofit leaders have, and they may not be managing $1 billion, but ultimately they're impacting the lives of dozens, hundreds, thousands of people and communities all over the state and all over the country. So, I do think that there's a lack of attention and kind of credence paid to nonprofit leaders and their experience, their wisdom, their input into what's going on in our world. And I do think that folks like you have that opportunity, I hope, to one day to speak loudly and to speak boldly about those challenges. And hopefully this is a small platform for you to do that, but I'm hoping that one day you'll get a much larger platform for you. What advice would you give this next generation? I mean, Penny, you're working with the next generation every day. Michelle, I'm sure you run into people who are asking you questions about getting into the nonprofit space, and they want to work and have dreams of changing the world, right? And, what advice would you give them? And I guess, Michelle, if you want to start with this one.
Sure. It's a little bit of a twist on your question, but because we are a nonprofit that supports entrepreneurs specifically, I want to come at it from that lens. And that is anyone and everyone who has a dream or an idea to start a business should fundamentally have access to resources and support to be able to do that and create wealth for themselves, their families, and their communities. And so within every community, there is somebody who can help. There is somebody who knows where those resources are and can help you find them. So I think so often the disconnection of these networks exacerbates this issue a little bit, but there are so many nonprofits that are there to support entrepreneurs and small business owners with free services and programs. And I just want to give a shout out to all of them, because they are also cobbling together funding to provide these resources. And so, our role is really just to make sure that they know where the gaps and opportunities may exist within the ecosystem. And so I think that I would just give a shout out to all the people who are doing the hard work every single day and maybe not getting as much attention or applause for that.
No, there's so many, including you all. I would probably put you in that, both of you in that space as well. The unsung heroes of our area and nonprofit space. So thank you for all you do. If nobody's told you that today, but Angel Oak is grateful for that and certainly appreciates all that you do. Penny, what about you? Any advice or any kind of takeaway you'd like to leave with the young, impressionable next generation of nonprofit leaders?
Oh, I tell you, coming from an era of information, this is the era of technology. And so I'm learning myself, I'm learning with them. So I'm learning with you all, but to say, to allow, don't allow your creativity to be hindered. This is one of the most creative generation that I have ever worked with, have ever seen. And so I encourage them to use what they're passionate about in that creativity and apply it to, to their social work, wherever in their career, whether they want to be an entrepreneur in social work, they want to be a creative artist in social work. I just encourage them And also to continue the integrity of it all. We have to maintain our integrity. We have a code of ethics in social work. We talk a lot about being ethical, integrity, and so on and so forth. And so, if anything I can take away is that keep your creative mindset, those creative juices flowing, because we definitely need you. Definitely.
Amen. Yeah, creativity and access, it sounds like, are the themes that you two are both sharing. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time today. Very interesting conversation. Thank you for your service at NC Central University. I'm a huge fan of historically Black colleges and universities. I think they are the bedrock of our communities and great examples of ways that we can be a little creative, right? But they're not new, obviously, but they are certainly, I think, still so valuable in the community. So I'm so glad that you're part of that. And Michelle, entrepreneurism, especially for underserved communities and underserved populations, being able and having access to those resources, and to your point, building wealth that may change generationally, that may change the next generation and the next generation beyond that. So such great work, and grateful for both of you there. If Penny, if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about NC Central, the social work program that you're in, where can they go to find out more about that?
Well, sure. They can go to nccu.edu and they can type in social work, and that will pull up our page. They're welcome to reach out to me personally if they want more information, and meet with them, give some informational interview. P Carroll 1L3@nccu.edu.
Awesome. And Michelle, what about Forward Cities? How can they learn more about the work that you all are doing?
So you can go to forwardcities.org or follow us on social media at Forward Cities. Also, for anyone who's in Durham, I just said that like my dad who's from Pittsburgh. Anyone who's in Durham, I was gonna say org. Go to freedurham.org and learn more about our program there to support entrepreneurs in our community.
And that was, I'm sorry, Free Durham?
E3durham.org.
Oh, I'm sorry, E3. Gotcha. E3 Durham. Well, thank you both so much. Look forward to following your journey at Leadership Triangle and beyond. So thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to staying in touch. For folks interested, you can learn more about Angel Oak Creative at angeloakcreative.com. You can also look for our podcast, The Nonprofit State of Minds. We have that on all the different podcast platforms, I think, is where you can look for that. These episodes it looks like we're trying to do about one a month, but I kind of get carried away sometimes, so we may have a few more to throw in the mix there. But excited about this work. You can also learn more about the state of nonprofits if you just go to ncstateofnonprofits.com. There's also information there just kind of about our work across the state. We are giving away, in partnership with Town Bank this year, we're giving away $10,000 to nonprofits across the state. We just invested $1,000 in the Harrelson Center in Wilmington, North Carolina, and look forward to doing that across North Carolina and supporting nonprofits there. So grateful for that. Thank you all, and look forward to staying in touch. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.